right, there's some more news coming in on the border standoff between India and China pertaining to Doklam. Now, amidst the standoff between the two countries, which is escalating with each passing day, United States has intervened and it has tried, in fact, to pacify the matter by saying that both countries should engage in a direct dialogue without and cohesive aspects. US has sent out a strong message to China asking them to cooperate and solve the matter with dialogue instead of getting into a conflict situation. This is the big news. United States intervention, especially in terms of easing out the tension between the two nations, but coming a little hard on China, asking them to cooperate and solve the matter by engaging into dialogue and not in conflict. My colleague Parikshit joining me on this big story. US, in fact, now Parikshit is sending another strong message to China. All this coming also at a time when Pakistan is trying to poke its nose and try and raking out a political leverage or advantage out of it diplomatically. Now, if US intervenes, is China bound to react? And what is United States' message all about, Parikshit?
Well, there is no direct intervention by the United States as of now, Sakal, but the fact is, this statement is very significant because the Chinese state media and the Chinese Foreign Ministry and the Defense Ministry have been putting out very, very strong messages. We've been hearing statements like India will suffer losses worse than 1962 and India must pull out troops as a precondition to any kind of dialogue. So there is a sense that there is a certain amount of coercion in the tone and tenor that China is taking over here. And that's why the message coming out is that solve this entire matter through dialogue. And it's also in line with what India is saying, let differences not turn into disputes. Now, this coming at a time when there are certain countries which have sought briefings from India on what is happening in Sikkim with the China standoff, but India also making this point that they're not making any diplomatic outreach as such. Whichever country is asking for a briefing on a routine basis, they are being given a briefing on the China standoff. But more or less, the government trying to send out a message that the global powers are convinced about India's stand, that it is a question of national security. It's a question of Bhutan's sovereignty, which is also at stake here.
But here, as far as this particular Pentagon briefing, Parikshit, is considered, Pentagon has not really taken any sides. I mean, they've been very cautious about the choice of words, not really taking a position on this matter vis-a-vis China. Can we say that? Refraining from taking a position?
That's right, because whenever it comes to any matter dealing with India, Sakal, US, or any of the P5 nations, even Russia for that matter, they've said they will not take a position or they will not take any sides till the time any of the country actually demands any sort of mediation. So we've seen very toned down statements, very carefully worded statements from the different world powers. I think US is one of the only countries which has come out and given a statement saying that both sides should solve their problems through negotiations. We haven't seen any statement from Russia.
Yes.
We haven't seen any statement from France. There was some sort of conversation before the Australian foreign minister had come. But more or less, countries have sought background briefings just to understand India's point of view. I'm sure similar briefings are happening there in China as well. So world powers, Security Council is keeping a close eye, but they're also sending out a message, do not resort to coercive measures. Try and resolve this dispute, this difference that you have over the tri-junction, over the boundary demarcation, through talks, through dialogue. So this is the bigger picture, and India hopes that this message from the United States will also be a point which China will reflect on, and the Chinese media will reflect on, and maybe we will have
will this? Yes, Parikshit. Since you've been tracking this very, very closely since the Doklam border standoff between India and China erupted, you know, it's been a very, very long time. Parikshit, you would agree that initially China tried its best to break the impasse, to break the status quo, I beg your pardon. And then China kept hardening its position, and the latest being that what we are hearing from the Chinese side, no talks on Doklam until, no talks with India until Doklam is resolved. As compared to that, India's position is very clear that differences should not be translated into disputes, as also reiterated by Foreign Secretary. Now on, when United States in this indirect intervention in the Pentagon briefing, do you think Beijing's aggressive posture and United States guarded response to all this is going to cut any ice with China?
I doubt it. I doubt it will cut any ice. But the Chinese government will also be looking for reactions globally to see what other countries, what other members of the Security Council would also say. Experts here in India believe that China would not like to be drawn into any sort of military confrontation as well. So even though those military threats are coming from some quarters, some think tanks, some media, but the fact is the foreign ministry has not made those statements. So there is a feeling that China would come around and post this NSA talks that are going to happen on the 26th and 28th. There will be a toning down in tensions, but there is a feeling in the Indian side that this is a standoff that may last a few months. It will not be rectified overnight, Sakal.
All right. So the bottom line here, of course, Parishit Luthra, is that United States of India actually backing India and in fact appreciating India's efforts and initiatives to ease off the tension, but at the same time sending a very, very strong message, although guarded message, to China that they should resolve the matter with India by engaging in dialogue and not through conflict.